Hello, 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 and welcome
Hello.
to the Lessons Learned by Lisa show. And tonight, I have to tell you, I have a great person, great lady that we're going to finish out this month of Women's Month in the month of March. And I have this, I guess they call y'all millenniums, that has been walking in her calling and doing what God has purposed for her to do in the industry called politics. So without further ado, let me introduce to you some and, just put a spotlight on her to others. Miss Tria Stallings. Tria, welcome to the show today. And I just want to say thank you. So for those of you that may not know you, because, I've got to observe you from a distance, growing and walking in the things that God has called you to do. So why don't you introduce yourself to the audience so that they can find out a little bit about you, girl?
Okay, thank you. And thank you for having me.
You are welcome.
Thank you. So my name is Tria Stallings. I work in the arena of politics. I am a born again believer. I love the Lord. God is my rock. God is the reason why I am who I am. And I'm just so honored to be here tonight. And I truly believe that with God, anything is possible. So I'm just truly excited for what this conversation will be. And I'm ready to go.
Okay, so we're gonna rip the wrapping of, like when you
Okay.
get a present, you can't wait to see what's in the inside. So I just want you to start, like, how did you know that politics was the area that you would have to, kind of make a little difference in? Like, what happened in
Yeah.
your lifetime that you said, oh, this is something I want to do with my life?
Yeah.
That aha moment, as per se.
Yeah. So the funny thing was that I actually wanted to be a doctor growing up.
Oh, wow.
But I will never forget, I was in a church service and there was a woman of God that pulled me to the side and said, God is going to use you mightily in the arena of politics. And I said, you know how we get a word that's not, God sees our future. So in the moment I was like, maybe she's just a little off, like maybe, how
And
it
she ain't
is.
talking
It's
to me.
like,
It looked like someone she thinks.
right. It's like, and I was like, okay. But it was like, as I got older and as I went through high school, I started to realize that medicine wasn't for me. Like, I didn't really like the sight of blood. Like, it was just certain things that just, they weren't lining up. But I just began to really realize that I had a gifting for people and I love people, but I also had a love for the law. And I also had a love for, being an advocate for young women and men. So I was like, God, if this is something that you want me to do, please just show me how, like, show me the way, because politics was never something that I, aspired to do. But once I realized that this was my lane, I said, oh, this is me. Like this is for me. So
After you
that was
made that decision that doctor wasn't your life, politics was, what
yeah.
was then the next step after you had embraced what someone saw in you that you didn't see at the time?
I would say mentorship. Like, I started to really flock towards people that were older than me in the political arena, just asking them like what they did to become successful. What are the do's, what are the don'ts, like what are the things that people probably wouldn't tell me in a book about politics.
And
So
what did you
mentorship,
learn from that experience?
I learned so much. Like, I've learned that a lot of leaders walk alone. And that was one of the things that I really had to accept. Of course, I have friends, I have my family, I have my church family. But when you're a leader, sometimes you can really feel like you were by yourself. And that's because of the calling. And sometimes, I mean, even Jesus had times where he, was by himself talking to the Father. So it can feel like a lonely road. It can feel like, God, why did you call me? There's times where even now I'm like, God, are you sure? Are you sure this is where I need to be? But he's like, yes. And God will always send that confirmation through people or through a word or through his word or through my prayer time to show me that this is what he wants me to do. And this is where I've been called to be.
So what did you study at college to then, after you found the mentors, they told you some do's and don'ts, you understood that it's going to be isolated, it's going to be some loneliness, there's going to be seasons of your life that you won't really have anybody else that you can truly depend on. other than
Mhm.
God to navigate
Mhm.
through the situation. So then you
Mhm.
went to college. What courses did you have to take that kind of helped to get you to the place that you are now, which we'll get to
Yeah.
later, but I'm trying to navigate this pathway to getting to that point.
Absolutely. So I in undergrad, I went to school for political science, but since I was starting off as me thinking that I wanted to be a doctor, I was actually a nursing major for like a week, right? And then after I was a nursing major, I was a psychology major. And I was like, okay, well, I know I have a passion for people. I know that I'm skilled to talk to people and to help people with their issues. But psychology, it wasn't for me. I was passing, I was getting excellent grades, but it was just still something on the inside of me that was like, this is
This is
not it.
it.
It's not it.
It didn't
So
give you
then
that passion, that desire. Like you didn't wake up in
exactly.
the middle of the night thinking, oh, where's my paper? Let me write down some stuff that I need to
Exactly.
take care of. I got you.
Exactly. And then my sophomore year, I transferred my major and one final time to political science. And literally, there will be times where I would literally feel the Holy Spirit bubbling up on the inside of me when I was sitting in those classes, for God to just show me, like, daughter, this is where you've been called to be. And if you tell someone else that that's not a believer, they may be like, oh, you're doing too much, or that's extra. But we know God can use anything as a sign to show us that we are in the right path. And there will
Exactly.
be times where I will be in class and I'm just like, this is what I've been called to do. And this is where I've been called to be.
So then you graduated from college. And then,
Yes.
so did you get an intern during your college years,
Yes.
interning at various organizations that could give you
Yeah.
additional insight? What were some of those experiences like for you?
Absolutely. So I did an internship with a congresswoman, and that was my first time like being in an office where it was an actual politician. So I was able to see what she does. I was able to see the ins and outs of her job, her duties, like the different things that she would do on a daily basis, the highs, the lows. So it was an opportunity for me to really walk in her shoes and not necessarily be a politician, but to be able to see what it takes. And I'm like, I can do this. Like, I'm like, this is something
Like it
that
didn't
I
deter
can
you.
see
That
myself.
experience gave you more
No,
passion to do what you wanted to do.
exactly.
So
Absolutely.
another seed that God planted along the way to keep you moving along this path. So then,
Absolutely.
as you did the internship and you got ready to graduate, what was one of the pivotal things that you did after that that really secured, like, yeah, this is it. I can do this.
I did a fellowship. So it's like an internship, but it's not. When you're a fellow, you're considered more like senior than an intern. So
Mhm.
I was able to help write legislation. I was able to help with the interns in the office, and I was able to pour out, and I was able to learn from my experiences of things where I felt like I messed up, but God used those mistakes and worked them out for my good to help other young women and men that want to be in politics. So even the good, the bad, the ugly, he always works everything out for our good. And it's just, that's why my favorite scripture is Romans 8:28. And we know that all things work together for the good to those that love God and to those that are called according to his purpose. Because everything that I've learned, the good, the bad, the ugly, has helped so many people with my story. I'm able to relate to people. I'm not this person that's just so caught up in myself. I always try to find ways to give back to those that are around me, whether it be like my younger cousins, my younger sibling, or the interns in the office. So when I did the fellowship, I wasn't considered an intern. I was more more senior than the interns, but I was still learning. So even as I was pouring out, I was still learning. I was still, learning about legislation. I was still learning about how to write a law. I was still learning about, how hard it can be to pass legislation and different things like that.
Yeah, various policies that you wanted to see implemented. So that was, so
Yep.
you did that. So then I guess for you, you were around the timeline then when we had the latest election.
Yeah.
How were you involved in that operation as per se?
Yes. So I was actually on the campaign for Joe
wow.
Biden. So I was on his campaign, and that was one of the greatest experiences. I was able to travel across the country and knock on doors. So when you knock on doors, you're knocking on doors telling people why you believe in the candidate that you're working for. I was able to truly meet just so many amazing politicians across the country that look like me. Because in politics, you know, Black women, we're still breaking the glass ceilings in so many ways. Like, you know, Lisa Blunt Rochester from Delaware, that's the congresswoman that I interned for. She was the first African American and the first woman to be elected in Delaware. So she broke 2 glass ceilings by winning. So, you know, Black women,
which is amazing considering we're in 2022,
20,
and it should not be that's the first time we have a Black woman.
Exactly. And we're still here. Like, we're still breaking glass ceilings. So I believe that God has called me into this arena to not only be a voice for him, but to also break other glass ceilings as well, especially because I'm so young.
Yes. And to find your calling so early, because, you know, a lot of us, it didn't come as easy. We figured it out along the way, more trial and error at a later age. So it's good that, you know, you've got a jump start, as per se. So that's a great thing. So going back to the campaign trail, were you on buses? You was on the bus?
Yes, I was on the bus. I was on buses. I was in snow. I was knocking on doors in the middle of 80-degree weather. It was all of it.
And you wouldn't change a minute of it?
No.
Well, that's good. So when you're traveling with all the different arenas, because of course you're going to the South, East, North, and West, and you're going to run into people that have a different opinion about your candidate. How difficult was it then to try to talk to someone that may not agree with your candidate or what they stand for? Like, how did you deal with those types of situations?
Yeah, it was tough because when you're backing a candidate, it's like they become like a family member. So it's like if you know, if you have a cousin, or you know, I mean, it was Joe Biden, so I called him Uncle Biden. So I'm like, you know, how can y'all not believe
like
in
my
him?
uncle?
Right, like how can, but I was just so passionate, and then you know, we had people like Kamala Harris, who was running for president. So a lot of people would say, well, if you're a Black woman, why don't you support a Black woman? It wasn't that I wasn't supporting her. I just believe that Joe Biden was the best candidate at that time. And now Kamala Harris is our vice president. She's doing an amazing job, and it has broken ceilings for so many women across the nation. So, you know, I just, it was tough because there were a lot of people that didn't necessarily believe in him in the beginning because of his age or because of some of his policies in the past. But I just stuck to it, and I just had to accept that everybody wasn't going to believe in him, just like everybody wasn't going to believe in me. So it was a tough pill to swallow, but I was able to pass through it.
So you being able to be up close and personal, what are some of the things that you have seen that made you lean more towards that maybe some of us that are more far removed can't see, that you could possibly share to give insight?
I would say there's not enough of us Black women in politics. So I took the badge of honor and just really took this opportunity as, look, I am, you know, my ancestors' wildest dreams. We have come so far as Black people. We have come so far as Black women. And I just always think about the people that are rooting for me that I've never even met before. Or, you know, like the people that have fought for our rights, you know, that have sat down in buses and were, you know, laced with water hoses and chased with dogs just for us to be able to vote. So I think about those people that have truly, you know, fought the good fight, just like Elijah Cummings and, you know, so many amazing politicians who put their life on the line so we could have a voice in this country. So I don't think that there's enough of Black women in politics, and I just want to be able to be somebody's shining star and to be able to say, hey, if I did it, you can do it, and I know you can do it.
So is there when I think about a doctor and he has specialties, is there a specialty in politics that you're more interested over something else?
I love Black politics. I love African American history. I just love it. because I believe that in order to know who you are, you have to know where you've come from. So I think it's so important for me as a Black woman to understand the lives of those that have gone before me, whether it be Harriet Tubman, whether it be Sojourner Truth, whether it be, you know, Shirley Chisholm, you know, so many people that have fought the good fight, and their legacies still ring and their legacies are still here. And, you know, I just always try to read books about them and try to learn more about their lives, going to the Black Wax Museum in Baltimore, different things like that.
Okay, well, that is really nice to know. It's so nice to see young people that are doing things that are affecting, this generation, because like you said, there's not enough of us out there. And unless we get a voice and we begin to speak up, and we begin to enter into these industries where we're not going to really make a difference in the world in which we exist in today. So now that you have traveled all through that, you made it through the campaign trail, through the bus, you made it through the internship and the fellowship. And now where has your feet landed?
So my feet have landed. My feet have landed in the United States Senate. I'm working in the Senate for one of the senators from Delaware. And I'm just so excited, and it's like God has blown my mind, because I would have never imagined myself being here, and it's truly an honor to work alongside of him.
Okay, and I'm just gonna put it out there. Most people don't like to say their age, right? But I know that you are a young woman, so I want people to know that it didn't take you 60 years to get there. So give a shout out for the age bracket that you're representing right now. So tell them, you ain't got to be 50, you ain't got to be 60. You can do this at.
Look, I am 27 years old. Look, you can do, millennials, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it.
So what does the future look like now that you've landed this position, and now you're, cultivating some relationships? You've learned from the bottom up, which is great because you understand how the system works. So what do you see yourself like in 5 years from all of this information, all of this networking, all of these relationships, and the vision that you have for yourself and the passion? Where do you see yourself like in the next 5 years? Are we going to be having a little poll up saying vote for?
Yes!
Vote for!
I was going to say, I want to run for office. I want to be a politician. So in 5 years, hopefully I'll be in a legislative hall writing laws, or, being a congresswoman or a senator or a state official. I really would love to run for office one day.
Very nice. Well, I'm going to keep my eyes watching, because I think you will be one of those people that will be running for office. And I think that you will be making a difference, writing policies that affect young Black girls and young Black women and voter rights. And I really believe that you have what it takes to do it. So Tria, I appreciate you taking a little time, sharing a little bit of insight and information. Do you want to do a shout out where folks can reach out and they can find you if they have some questions? Or, how I am. I'd be like, hey, maybe she can help you get an internship. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you don't know until you ask. But if you want to shout out the platforms where people can reach out to you, if you have some organizing events that you have around in your state that people can get, who are interested in politics, that want to get to know what's going on inside Delaware, what I'm saying? And even, up in DC, because that's where you are too. So you can impact, different places. So if you want to shout out your social media platforms where people can get in contact with you. And like I said, you never know, we might have to get a whole bunch of, your church folks to put your little signs up in a few years.
So you can follow me on Facebook. Tria Stallings, Tria. My last name is Stallings, Stallings. I'm also on Twitter, on Instagram. It's the @Tree Serenity. So TRISERENITY _. That's my social media handle on Instagram and Twitter. Follow me on Facebook and reach out. I'm an open book. I'm willing to give insight. I'm willing to help you find an internship, or help your daughter or your son, or your cousin, whoever is interested. I believe that everyone has what it takes. You just have to find your niche, and you just have to know that God has called you to that arena.
Well, thank you so much, my dear girl. I just love seeing what you're doing. I just love watching you and observing you, and you're doing with such class and dignity. You are representing us well. So thank you for agreeing to be on Lessons Learned by Lisa. Know that I love you real hard. And until I see you again, make sure you stay encouraged. Love you, baby girl.
Love you.